Good morning on this first day of summer. I am Michael Chevy Castronova. I'm the business editor at the Gazette. Welcome to today's business breakfast panel, during which we're going to go all Petula Clark and talk about downtown Cedar Rapids. Downtown is the place where we have parades and concerts and live theater, a park, a library, an art museum, as well as restaurants and bars and office workers and tall buildings and hospitals. And we have construction and road lines and an occasional flood. So this morning, we aim to discuss some lessons learned over the past couple years, what's in the works for downtown businesses and organizations and development as inflation and the economy continue to throw us curves. And more important, with our panel today, we're going to talk about what we should consider going forward. All of which, because we're talking about Cedar Rapids, is one of the reasons. Co-moderating with me today is Marissa Payne. Marissa, hi.
Hi, I'm the Gazette Cedar Rapids government reporter, and I'm looking forward to this discussion with all our panelists today. But before we introduce today's panel, we have with us this morning from our sponsor, Bergen KDV, Jake Wagner. Good morning, Jake. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being with us.
So you want to share a few things today with us, Jake, about Bergen KDV and downtown and the like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am actually filling in for our director of sales, Nicole Mead, who typically participates here. And she had sent me over a little script that I can touch on just briefly. And there is a topic I would love to get to when we talk about the future of Cedar Rapids and the future of business. So starting at the top, Bergen KDV is a local business, financial, and technology firm. And today I plan on talking to everyone about technology, what we see as business opportunities and also vulnerabilities that the industry is facing today that really require a special focus on technology with education, strategy, and proactive monitoring. So if there's a 5-minute opportunity here, I'd love to talk to you guys about a couple of quick topics. I just want to make sure that I'm on track or on pace with the proper protocol here.
Well, we are live, and this is your moment, Jake. So if you've got something to say, now's the time.
Yeah, so you know, we're out banging the drum, and what I mean by that is we're just creating awareness. Every organization, we firmly believe, is built upon technology today. And so when we talk about the future of Cedar Rapids, certainly we talked about economic pressure, inflationary pressure. We all know there was some flooding pressure in the past, so physical threats. What we really focus on within my division at Bergen is the cybersecurity side, the bad guys, the people that you don't see. And what you'll hear everybody talk about today is, yeah, you should go out and you should get the tools and you should get the help desk and you should get the chief information officer. You need some strategy-led technology within your organization. We're trying to change the tune a little bit, and I appreciate the platform to share this today. And if everyone participating, as you're going throughout your breakfast here this morning, if you can write one word down, it's called defensibility. And defensibility is the idea of knowing where you stand today. So every organization participating, white collar, blue collar, for-profit, nonprofit, do you know where you stand today from a security posture standpoint? Do you know what future state looks like, AKA where are you going? And are you documenting and measuring these incremental improvements that you're making as you continue to chip away at that plan? And so let me tie this together real quick. We are seeing changes coming from everywhere at the macro level. So we talked about the economy, we talked about inflation. So state and federal government is driving new change and regulation within the cybersecurity space. Depending on the industry you serve, there's also industry regulatory bodies driving change. And then there's also, and everyone's familiar with insurance, right? You've got your business insurance. Insurance providers from a cybersecurity standpoint are also driving change. And so the question that I just want to ask everybody is, are you a fan of voluntary change or involuntary change? And one allows you to control your spend a lot more. So I'll end this with Bergen KDV. What we're looking to do and what we're looking to accomplish is change the conversation a little bit. People certainly pay us to solve their current problems. They really pay us to predict their future problems. And so in the spirit of today's future of Cedar Rapids, we're here to help organizations establish a foundation. Where are you at today? That's called a firm grasp of scope. We're helping organizations build that technology roadmap. So what does future state look like? And we're also here to help execute and supplement every step of the way and help you document and measure that improvement. And ultimately partnering with the Bergen KDV technology team here, so sales plug, we're helping organizations demonstrate intent to do better. And that is what's keeping organizations safe today. So just wrapping it up, when we're talking about future growth, I'm excited for today's panel, what's in store for the town of Cedar Rapids, including the Race for Space program. As part of the program, Bergen KDV will provide intentional growth training to the winner. This is a program for business owners and entrepreneurs who want to educate themselves on how to grow the value of their company with the end in mind. So we offer this program 3 times a year, and the next session, starts on August 2nd. Reach out to Bergen KDV team for more details. And once again, I appreciate you guys having me on this morning.
Thanks, Jake. I also want to thank our community partner for today, New Boco, which has always been helpful. So now to our panel. For those of you watching live, remember you can submit questions and comments by way of the Q&A button. That's that thing at the bottom of your screen there. Those will go to our room host who will send them along. You can during the discussion, please doing it during the discussion. Don't wait till our final 15 minutes because then I can't promise you we're going to get to them, right? Okay, great. So to our panelists, what I'd like to do is go around the screen and each of you can tell us your title, where you work, in a brief, just like a brief executive summary of what you do right now, because I know you all wear more than one hat. So, we'll just pick your top 2 hats. And we're going to go on my panel. So for my screen, Jesse, please, who you are and what do you do?
Good morning, Michael. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a great panel here today. So my name is Jesse Thowing. I'm the Executive Director of Downtown SMID. That is an arm of the Economic Alliance merger between the Legacy Chamber of Commerce, Priority 1, and Legacy Downtown District, a little over a decade old now. And on a day-to-day basis, I have a fantastic maintenance team that takes care of the very specific 72 block boundary that comprises the downtown SMID. SMID stands for Self-Supported Municipality Improvement District for everybody on the phone. And, we do everything from cleaning, beautification, maintenance, public art, the holiday lights at the end of the year. We're in the process of planting 6,000 flowers in the districts right now and on down the list. So I want to get us cranking and move on to the next one. But thanks again for this opportunity.
Thanks, Jesse. Daryl, Mr.
Thanks,
High.
Michael. Good morning, everyone. I'm Daryl High. I own High Properties, headquartered here in downtown Cedar Rapids, and I'm also the current chair of the downtown SMID district.
And High Properties does commercial and residential, right?
Mostly residential, Michael. We currently have about 1,000 units in the metro Cedar Rapids, and but we do work in various Eastern Iowa communities.
Cool. Mayor O'Donnell, you do lots of things, I know.
Yeah, well, my full-time job is the CEO of Women Lead Change, which is a nationwide thought leader in terms of women's leadership development. My side hustle, as we call it, my job, and I believe why I'm here today, is as the mayor of Cedar Rapids. So I want to say thanks to the Gazette for bringing this group together, because I'm surrounded by a room full of doers who truly have the heart of our city in mind. So I appreciate that. That was a focal point of my campaign, and it remains one of my focuses as mayor. So I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Cool, thank you. Andy, you're up.
Hi, my name is Andy Schumacher. I am the chef and co-owner with my wife, Carrie, of 2 restaurants, Cobble Hill, downtown Cedar Rapids, and Caucho over in the Nubo district.
Okay, and we know those businesses have seen a bunch of changes in recent years, and we'll be talking about those. So to start, this question is for each of you, please. What would you say is the best thing right now? The best thing, we're just about mid-2022. What's the best thing right now about downtown Cedar Rapids? And what would you say is the one thing that we probably could look at for some improvement? And yes, I know that's pretty open-ended. So what do you say? Mayor O'Donnell, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, no, I'd love to. I think, Women Lead Change is a nonprofit, but I will tell you, and anybody who knows us, we've been around 15 years because we run ourselves like a business. And I consider myself as much of an entrepreneur as a CEO of an organization. So with that mindset, the greatest opportunity for our downtown right now is I feel like it's a blank slate, similar to post floods of '08 when we had an opportunity to reimagine what we looked like. I feel like we're in that moment right now in Cedar Rapids, post derecho, post COVID. We have such an opportunity if we seize it with the influx of funding opportunities that we have now that we certainly have not had in the past, with the changing workplace culture. Not as much of a need for actual physical working space, and certainly with where we are culturally as it relates to our environment. We have a real opportunity to reimagine what our downtown is, and that relates to as it looks as well. But what is it? And I have a real eye on workforce, so I think a lot about what our workers to be, either whether they're here already or the ones we'd like to come, what they're looking for. So we have a blank slate, in my view. It's a huge opportunity. In the short term, I think one of our biggest challenges is, one of our most beautiful spots in town right now, Green Square Park. It remains, such a refuge for us in the city, and it needs support. It needs, we need to make sure that members of our community who need a place to live, a place to sleep, have it. Right now, it seems like if you've been to Green Square Park lately, and even around there really early in the morning or, around 7 o'clock at night, I don't think any one of us here in Cedar Rapids would be proud of, the position we're putting some of our most vulnerable citizens in. So in the short term, I think Green Square Park and our homeless population needs support. In the long term, I think our challenge is vision. And I know that Jesse's got some plans, and the downtown Schmid is working with the city to create that master plan. So I'm so looking forward to being a part. And this council is, by the way, as well, very committed to our downtown and our Greenway. It's going to look very different over the next 10, 20 years.
Okay. Who wants to go next with this?
I'll jump in. Three things jump to mind with that question in the current time that we're living in. The time of Corona, this 2.5 year stretch that we've all lived through, has taken so much from so many, but it has accelerated a few trends that really put our urban core in a position to get to that next level. One, trail and water recreation usage have never been more popular. And Connect CR is no longer a dream of the citizens. It's no longer a fundraising endeavor. It's happening. And when that comes to fruition, that's really going to propel us. Secondly, urban housing, downtown housing, has never been more popular. And I think with the current developments that are in place right now, you see, various places on both sides of the river, dirt's being moved. There are other housing developments in the pipeline. That we're going to be in a really, really strong spot on that front too. But the biggest thing, and that we didn't take our eye off the ball as we went through this over the last 2 years and change. We got a $750 million flood control system that is in work. Just pick up the paper any Monday. Yellowstone, our biggest national park, just got flooded. We're at risk. We're living through something. These things are going to become more frequent, more ferocious. And to have a flood control system that's not only going to protect all the investment and resources and time and toil that people went through in the post-flood years, and now trying to get to the other side of this crisis, that's a really big deal. And especially the way it's designed, it's going to be incorporated into the overall trail system. And for those that aren't in the know about it, you're not even going to realize that's actually part of the flood control system. It's just going to be a very nice complement to our urban core. So those three things definitely have me very bullish about the future of downtown Cedar Rapids and our urban core.
Okay, Daryl, I see you nodding your head.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead of Jesse next time because he took my items, but no, we have to tip our hats to the city officials, current and before, and their state officials on our flood protection. I mean, all we're going to talk about today is not really that important if we don't protect what we're going to invest in. And to have one of the largest flood protection projects in North America right here in Cedar Rapids is incredible, and I'm thankful for that. And I think the exciting thing is we are becoming an urban neighborhood. We're going to talk about a lot of housing today. There's a lot of housing projects that are in the works, and we're moving more of a population into what used to be our central business district, and not a lot of housing. The challenges, I think, to most of the businesses that are down here are, it takes time. It's not an overnight thing. And the transition that we're currently going through creates some struggle. So I think the positive is we're going to become an urban neighborhood. I think we're going to become one of the shining stars in the Midwest, along with a few other communities like Des Moines, who are a few years ahead of us. But we're laying the groundwork right now, and we've got a lot of really invested stakeholders from the city, the Schmid, a lot of private development folks that are local folks. A lot of places when they have to develop, they have to go lean on people from outside the community. We've got a lot of skilled development people in our community, and they are putting their money where their mouth is to develop in the downtown Schmid but in all of the neighborhoods that make up. So that's a positive. What could we use? We could use a little bit of community support. If you're listening to this and you haven't taken your mom or your mama or your aunt to lunch downtown, or you haven't been downtown since Armstrong's was here, try to have a family thing downtown. Try to come eat downtown, come visit downtown. I know there's construction, and that's what happens when you grow and you redo things, but we've got active businesses down here that need your support, and this is your downtown. And so I would just, plead to the group to go out and do something downtown. And yeah, we'd appreciate it.
That sounds like a nice lead in for you, Andy.
Yeah. I was just thinking, I think we've been really happy. The pandemic, I think most recently was the most kind of poignant thing that we've had to deal with since we've opened Cobble Hill, which I think we've been open 9 years. We'll be open 10 in February. So it's almost a decade in. And since that, we've really seen a resurgence in people coming out and wanting to get back out and dine. And it's been really great rebound since that's happened. And so I think, we see a lot of positive vibes from that, and a lot of hopefulness to continue that momentum. So I feel like that's kind of feels like the best thing about downtown right now, and getting the resurgence of the downtown farmers market and things like that. That being said, Daryl was talking about how things take time, and we've been down there for 10 years, and it's kind of felt like it's been fairly stagnant for the time we've been down there. When we first opened Cobble Hill, we were kind of along the mindset of like, hey, we're kind of trying to start rebuild downtown and get some more activity going on down here. And 10 years later, we still have a lot of vacancies all around our business and in the area. So I think that, that's part of the thing that we're most excited about and most motivated to, is to kind of like continue that momentum and keep that going. But I think it does take a long time. I think that, a small Midwestern town like us seems like we're in a unique opportunity at this point in history, as we see the cost of living skyrocketing in really large cities across the country. And we've seen kind of larger versions of ourselves, and, like some of these like smaller cities like Nashville, where people are kind of coming from really large urban areas to look for more affordable living and for a more peace of mind. And, people want to, and when I moved back we lived out east for 4 years, but when I moved back here, one of the things I value most about here is just, it's very easy to live here, and you can live close to your business, and you can do the things you need to do. The cost of living is very affordable here. And I think that, we should leverage that message for people. And on the back of that, I feel like the downtown living, and I know you guys will probably speak to that, as a huge, huge thing that we believe strongly in, is we have to have people living down there to have vibrancy. And so, my hope too is that we are creating affordable living for people who, are kind of like that lower middle class vibe, who, are just starting out. And a lot of times, maybe it's just a perception, but it seems like some of the living down here is priced pretty high for those people. The condos and things that are going for $200,000 or $300,000. You can get a nice house in the Southeast side for that much money. And so it seems a hard sell for me in my mind to want to have someone come down and do that. But I could also see people who, could buy a nice 1-bedroom condo or rent a nice 1-bedroom apartment for a starting income to be more incentivized to be down there. And I guess it's chicken or the egg. It's like, do we have to get the people down there first before we open all the cool shops and businesses, or it kind of happen together? But that's
No,
kind
and
of
I just, if you wouldn't mind too, I might just add on to that, Andy. I couldn't agree more. And I know the city's committed to, I say we need to have people walking their dogs downtown. I mean, we need to have that neighborhood feel, and that requires a wide range of housing. I think of the Banjo Block as maybe our next opportunity for that affordable price point that you mentioned. And I think it's also important to distinguish what affordable housing is. Affordable housing is my daughter, who's 23 and just graduated from college and is has her first job. People sometimes equate affordable with Section 8, and it's a wide range. It actually encompasses a lot of the people that we really need to bring to our downtown. So I appreciate you mentioning that. The success of that downtown, I think, will rely on the wide variety of housing we have down there to attract that wide variety of people that we know we want.
Yeah, I mean, when I lived out east, it was like these neighborhoods that were like, these kind of like industrial up and coming neighborhoods where people would move to, and it was like a lot of affordable warehousing districts where starving artists would go to live and plant their flag. And that's when the neighborhoods would all of a sudden have all these cool shops, is because like, I can live here, I don't have the money, but I have a vision, and so I'm going to rent this space I can live in, and then 10 years later everyone wants to live there and the price goes up. And so it's kind of that seems to be a good kind of analogy for what you're speaking about, I guess, Tiffany.
This just to kind of circle back to one of the points the mayor mentioned earlier, workers really haven't returned downtown to pre-COVID levels. So, given there will likely be some element of remote work that we have to contend with for a while, that'll mean less traffic downtown. What do you all think is the key to a vibrant downtown as we kind of emerge from the pandemic? And how do we get people to spend their time and money downtown?
I mean, for me, I guess my experience even before the pandemic, it didn't really feel like the people who were working downtown necessarily, it seemed like they would go down to work, most of them. And this is obviously an anecdotal perception based on my little corner of the universe. And so you have to take it with a grain of salt. But they would come down to work and then leave. And so like the people who are coming down because we, our nighttime situation, it was just they weren't related at all. We were open for lunch for a little bit and had a little bit of a lunch crowd that would kind of tap into some of the business people. But for the majority of the people who are coming to eat, they're not associated with people working down there. And so the two things for me in my mind seem unrelated. And I think that we have like the people who aren't working because of COVID and business anymore. It's kind of a moot point from our perspective of like what's causing people to want to come down there and be down there. Something like the nighttime downtown farmers market. I know that's an obviously like super exacerbated example, but like it's always a really awesome feeling on that night being in Cobble Hill, because we have our doors open and there's people around and people are coming in off the street, just walking in and out, and it's like the closest thing to like a really like legit urban vibe that I think that we get. And obviously, like I said, it's a super exacerbated situation, but that's kind of I think I don't know, the challenge too, like, and I grew up in Cedar Rapids, I'm from here, is it's like a very suburban town, and it's easy to go live out in a corner of the town and have like a lot of your amenities that you need in that area, and then you just don't have a reason to come downtown. So leveraging like some sort of that excitement and again, going back to like, I don't know, that comes to just having unique, cool businesses down there, I guess is what, my mind goes to in terms of kind of roundabout answering your question. I don't know. I kind of meandered a little bit there, Marissa, but.
Well, let me follow up with that and it's kind of the same question. So every time we do a downtown survey, the city does a downtown survey, all the years I've been here, it says the same thing. We need movie theaters. I don't know if it says that still. more bars, more restaurants, maybe a pharmacy. We need some groceries. Are those, and this is for all of you, are those really things we need more of? Is that going to make downtown vibrant, exciting? Will that make more people not, as Andy says, be out in the suburbs, but come downtown? Every time there's a recession, there's a discussion about, well, maybe we make all these office buildings, maybe we become a, what is it called, a service center where, you know, they work there and then they go home at night, which would not be great for Andy's businesses. What is it we really need downtown? Daryl, you've been looking at this, you have stuff downtown. What do we need?
Well, I think remote work, I mean, maybe to tie onto the other question first for a second, remote work is here to stay, or some version of it. So we're going to have to adapt to what's going to happen in the marketplace for office buildings. And I think we're already doing that. The Iowa building, the Dow's building, the old Skogman building, all those are teed up and under construction for housing. So I agree with Andy. It never happens as fast as you want it to, but those projects are underway. To the mayor's point, the Banjo Block, and then we have other forms of housing at First and First. I know it's over into our sister district in Newbo at the Loftus Lumber site in GLD, developing that. We're going to have more people, and that's what it's going to take. If we want it, I totally agree with Andy. I wish it felt like that every night. I wish some version of that is what downtown felt like. We're just going to have to grow into it. You know, the service providers like pharmacy and grocery and stuff, they usually won't come until the people are there. They don't usually come first. So we're going to have to focus our efforts on getting more people here every day, whether they live here or work here. I will say that, and I think probably Jesse will get in to talk a little bit about the race for the space. As some of this remote work changes and some of these young entrepreneurs come and reoccupy some of our building spaces that were maybe occupied in more corporate settings before, those are the youngsters, and I call them youngsters, the 20-somethings, 30-somethings, that they are more urban. They will hang around after work. So I'm an optimist, or I wouldn't be a real estate developer. But you know, I think we've already got a lot of those things getting started on changing some of those buildings.
I'll weigh in from my perspective. Last year at the International Downtown Conferences, our International Downtown Association's annual conference, the main theme.
That's the event in Las Vegas, right?
No, it moves around.
No?
It moves around every year.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'll touch on a little bit of that why too. You know, in 2020, every community, not in the country, even on the planet, we're thinking about, you know, every chamber, every economic development organization, every city. Like, how are we going to help our businesses navigate through these uncertain times? And I think what the Economic Alliance did with the Rally Cap initiative was a big win, just to bring that mindset to people that if you want these places, if you want these businesses, you got to really keep them top of mind now more than ever. But in 21, it shifted. Not that that wasn't important anymore, but the focus on urban cores, core districts, downtowns. When you're talking about 50, 60, 75% of the workforce pre-corona not being there anymore, what are you going to do? And the focus was programming and events. And, you know, I'm not from here. I've been very blessed to be able to travel a whole bunch since my college days. And I've been to a lot of different places. And for a community this size, we are so fortunate to have places like Paramount and the McGrath Amphitheater and a Powerhouse. And I really want to tip my hat to the team at VenueWorks, because in the wake of the pandemic and once the vaccines became readily available, what they've done this last year with the programming and events at those spaces has just been top notch. And, you know, with the Economic Alliance, we brought the farmers market back full bore this year, but we still need to double down on that. And the downtown SMID is actually this week going to be talking a lot about in terms of a strategic plan. The mayor had mentioned that earlier on what that really looks like. You know, just last year we installed a high-tech projector that's going to spit out light art images and events and film onto the Armstrong Center. We really need to crank that up a notch, but it really needs to be an all hands on deck kind of moment, because Daryl's right. I mean, even if we got back to 60 or 75% of the workforce that was comprised in the downtown area in 2019, that's still a significant portion of people not here, and you got to give them a reason. You got to give them a big time reason to want to come down here, to spend money, to spend time with their family and friends, and to make a big deal about it.
I might just add, I lived in Des Moines in the mid and late 90s. And if you've been to Des Moines, I think one of the first loft project was Brown Camp Lofts and over by Sec Taylor. And everyone said it would fail because there was no grocery store downtown. I mean, think about how long ago that was. And actually Hy-Vee actually put in an urban grocery store a couple of years ago. And I think they've either repurposed it or closed it. I don't know. So to the point of having community first, that is well taken, and we are, as Daryl mentioned, we've got all kinds of opportunities in terms of housing in the queue and on the way. That's the good news. I think, events are the easy way to build community. And this is stuff we can do today. And so I know Jesse and his team is working hard. I'm going to challenge all of us to work harder. Ideas are free. The opportunity to maybe close down 2nd Street every now and then and put a free band out there. Or, building community is what's, I believe, is going to get us where we want to go. The other stuff will follow. That there's a big joke at City Hall. I laugh every time because I think it's funny, but it's how I feel. More dog parks. The mayor wants dog parks. We keep hearing all the time. And it is a little silly, but it's actually very serious. You've been to these urban areas and the people we're trying to attract. A lot of us have animals, and it's a way to create community. So the more ways, whether it's market after dark, whether it's closing down a street, every now and then to have a special event, if we build community, the other stuff will definitely happen. And, I know Jesse and Daryl and their team's working hard on that. Again, I'm going to challenge everybody. I think the vision of an overall downtown 10 and 20 years from now is really important for us to be talking about as well. And that's where I'm looking forward to, putting out this RFP to people who, study this across the country. What does a great downtown look like today? It may not mean as many buildings. Who knows what it looks like, but I'm really, again, when I say it, having a blank slate, I really believe I reimagine what the streetscape, what the skyline even looks like in our downtown.
Yeah, and you mentioned this a lot in the course of your campaign for mayor. So we have an audience question here. Someone wants to know, are there plans to develop a Riverwalk setting like San Antonio and other river towns? So Mayor, maybe you could jump into this plans for the Greenway.
I will, absolutely. And thank you to whoever asked that question, because I will tell you, we just released last week at council, this city council's priorities, and the Greenway is number one. And our flood protection is, again, I think it's going to be what cities, God forbid, who have to go through what we went through, will look to as the gold standard, because our flood protection truly is flood protection in plain sight. So when we talk about the traditional river walks that we see, even in Chicago, where you can walk right along the river, that is not going to be the case in Cedar Rapids, but I submit ours might even be cooler. We will be able to ride bikes and walk along the river. We might just be a little bit more elevated because that berm is actually flood protection. The city's flood director, Rob Davis, I call him the flood guru. Rob is a creative engineer. And when you see flood protection all across our river, it looks different in most places. For example, a pump station will be one of the first venues where you'll be able to, enjoy a meal on the river. Flood protection combining with actually using that river, turning our face towards that river, that is in the process. That Greenway project is a priority. It is our version of a river walk, and that is going to happen.
So, Andy, we're talking about all these things for downtown and what downtown could look like, and people come first, and dog parks and things, and all of which is of course cool and great. But let me ask you this: so you've got a business downtown, you got a business not very far away in Newbo. Excuse me. So you've gone through hiring shortages, just like the rest of us. flooding, pandemic, derecho, supply chain challenges. What could the city have done that might have helped you and some other downtown businesses do better? Or what are some things they could be thinking about the next time something, the next derecho, the next whatever that happens? What are some things that would be on your wish list as a downtown business operator, owner?
That's a tough question. I think, like in the most recent things with in terms of the pandemic, I think that there were some opportunities. Obviously, we had some federal opportunities, and I think there's some state grant opportunities that happened for restaurants, which were great. I don't know if there's an opportunity for the city to have like a more localized kind of support system opportunity for in the case of something like that happening. And so if these businesses downtown suffer a flood or suffer something, having the city itself be like, hey, we're really valued on making sure that, this area, stays around and gets developed. And so there's some sort of stopgap for the people who've been down there and who've been grinding that or trying to contribute to that. I think like
by a stopgap, do you mean like financial support? Is that what you mean?
Yeah. In terms of financial support, like in that moment where you're like, okay, now this happened. And so is there some sort of internalized thing where the city's like, hey, we have thought about this and we have this kind of like a plan for this to kind of at least help you guys out for a little bit. I know that it's maybe a little bit tougher than, easy to say in the concept, but maybe just tough to execute based on logistics or government issues. But, I think just also, just continuing to promote the area. I mean, I don't know, part of me too, is a lot of it just kind of comes down on the business, it's like you got, you got to make sure that your business is good and viable and like you're doing good stuff and you're reaching your market. So there's two like levels of that where you kind of have your personal journey that you're kind of going on. And it's nice to have the city there as a support, but also like, it's also kind of like your business that you have to make sure that you're providing something that people want to come down to. So that synergy there a little bit, but.
I'd like to comment on that too, Michael, because since we have, Jesse's with the Economic Alliance, I think a lot of us do look to the Alliance for some of that support, in terms of when times are tough like that. The rally cap, I think, was a great idea. I was really impressed when a local citizen, actually, Joe Sample, was kind of the first that came forward on his own during the pandemic to make sure that people were, finding ways to use our restaurants. I think it's an and. I think, we need the downtown businesses when times are good and bad. I think, there's a reason we have an economic alliance. I think that's definitely a component of that. And certainly the city, needs to be there as well. And it's not just when times are bad, but it's also accelerating recovery. For example, making sure that if we don't have the inspectors, that we go find them and we bring them in when businesses are trying to get back up and running as quickly as possible. I think this is, we need to be thinking about when that next, I hate to say it, it's always say as mayor, it's not a question of if, it's when, the next disaster will happen. We need to be thinking collaboratively about what we do all together to support this downtown district.
Jesse, I know you wanted to talk about Race for Space and some of these other things.
Now's
your time.
All right, I appreciate that. So this was a program, it's a business competition aimed at the winner getting a slew of benefits that would alleviate a lot of the uncertain variables that can make business very challenging. And it was something that was teed up in 2020. Put it on ice for obvious reasons, but we decided to bring it back in 2022 because, for millions of Americans for several months, again, while the pandemic took so much from so many, people were afforded time in a way they really never had before. Time to maybe reimagine their careers. And I think the corollary to that is going to be a big spike in entrepreneurship and startups. And that's what this program really wants to tap into. Essentially, you win the competition, You get free rent downtown for a year. You get a membership to the Economic Alliance and full support from our marketing team. Bergen KDV, Jake mentioned their business support course. That's another benefit. And one of our top local architecture firms, Form Function Studio, Paul Desmond, offering to help with the build out and the design. We have several spaces in the inventory, knowing that not knowing what the winner would look like. So they could pick and choose whatever space would best benefit their operation. So we're hoping that taps into, like I said, a spike in the entrepreneurship here locally and regionally, but we want it to be something where that business for a year can get on its feet, can get established, can get in the minds of the local residents here and become a long-term staple for downtown Cedar Rapids for several years to come. That is the underlying mission of Race for the Space, and applications are still open and run through the end of this month. We'll be making our selections. We want to whittle it down to a final four and have kind of an exciting Shark Tank type of event in August, where we would announce a winner, again, to build more excitement for that winner, and again, put them in a position for long-term success for downtown and for Cedar Rapids.
That's a cool, I didn't know about that to this point. That's an awesome thing. That's great.
And modern technology, I was muted. Jesse, how does one apply for that?
www.raceforthespacecr.org. We can send that out and get everybody that's on this today. We can send it out via email. We've been using social media, the Gazette, to try to get that in front of as many of the right eyes as possible. So for anybody on this who would be interested or know anybody in the entrepreneurial space, there's still plenty of time to apply.
Well, let's talk about connectivity to nearby neighborhoods. Czech Village, Newbo, Kingston Village, Time Check. There was a fair amount of talk a while ago about street dividers with trees and benches along 3rd Street, and kind of create something that offers a sense of place to connect Newbo and downtown. Where are we now with some of those placemaking discussions, and what more could we do to, create that interchange between downtown and some of these core districts?
I'll take part of that. I know at strategic planning, which is this week for the SMID, connectivity is part of the conversation with the other SMID districts. We're all four in this together, all four neighborhoods. And I think what you'll see, some connectivity and some kind of trolley, some kind of connective vehicle that would take you around to the different districts during the parts of the day and in the evening. Probably defer on the engineering about crossing some of our major, that is a little bit of a challenge. But I would tell you that to what the mayor said about Mr. Davis and the engineering, they're doing some pretty cool stuff with this flood protection. And if you have an opportunity to look at that city, the presentation that they give on that, as it progresses, maybe we'll have some additional opportunities for connectivity. But immediately the SMID is going to work on with the other SMIDs to see if we can't find a way to get people around the district.
One of the questions we have from someone watching is, and we've talked about Des Moines, are there some other peer cities that we could look to that have done some cool stuff that we might want to emulate or do something similar? I know there was a question earlier about San Antonio and its Riverwalk.
From my vantage point, with the work the city and the corridor MPO, that's the joint venture between the county and all the smaller towns in Lynn County, what they've done with our interconnected trail systems big time, and it's about to be fully interconnected. And when you couple that with ConnectCR and fully embracing the river and hopefully being able to re-engineer that 5-in-1 dam to allow for safe recreation access from, say, Palo all the way down through the urban core and maybe someday out to the Palisades State Park. I see this place being the kind of community that one wants to go to for those kind of opportunities. Not too dissimilar from a Bend, Oregon or a Traverse City, that those places are in the minds of what we call digital nomads in this new era, where essentially if you got your jobs in Chicago, but you don't have to be in Chicago anymore, or in Florida, or whatever, and really tap into that and create that kind of mindset as being the jewel of the upper Midwest in terms of outdoor recreation.
And we have nationwide attention because of that trail. I mean, the trail that goes literally coast to coast goes right smack dab through Cedar Rapids. So, I echo that. I know Jesse's the expert in terms of all cool things across the country downtown. But from where I sit, I agree. I think we're absolutely poised to become truly a destination, not just for visitors, but again, population and workforce.
Andy, you've been out and about in the world. What else? What do you see? Anywhere else we should look to? Or are we without peer?
I don't know. I don't know anywhere off the top of my head, actually, that we should look to. I mean, I know there's got to. I mean, I feel like just based with our geography and like you guys were talking about in the river, and like we have the footprint. We have an awesome footprint for it, and it's just like very pleasurable to go down there. And even for me as a business owner, to I'll just rent one of those little scooter deals and just go over to my other business in Nubo and back, and just me and my wife went over to the Mount Trashmore on the scooters back there, and I hadn't been back there yet, and it was great. I mean, it was fun, and you felt that this is cool and the potential that it could have. So I think that leveraging that, and I think that was a good point of just again going back to this idea where in the new world that we're in, people now are going to say, I don't have to be working in Chicago, I can work remotely, and so I want to go somewhere where I can raise my kids and have a little bit more peace of mind, and how do we leverage that as much as we can, because I think Cedar Rapids is a great place for that.
We may be without peer, Michael, and I of course I'm the mayor, so it's my job to say that, but I truly believe it. When you look at what we're doing, when I talked about the flood protection in plain sight, I mean, no one is doing this. I mean, we've literally, our flood guru has kind of taken us to another level. Derecho, we can't not talk about that either. I mean, this city will have replanted 1 million trees when this is all done. And both of these things have become opportunities for us to reinvent who we are. And I say that about the derecho because you look at, our priority for replanting trees are in neighborhoods that didn't have them before. So, I mean, we really have this opportunity to, and a lot of the funding support right now to become the place that others look to. We hate to be known as the disaster recovery capital of the world, but we really are a shining example of what can happen when a community, turns this adversity into incredible opportunity. And in both ways, these are unprecedented disasters in places where this stuff doesn't happen. And look at how we've handled them. I mean, there may be calls like this in other parts of the country. There probably are already. Well, they'll say, well, there's this place called Cedar Rapids. Check and see what they've done. Kind of like we did with Grand Forks. We may actually be without peer in a really good way.
In a good way, yes. Hey, so Daryl, in our last 7-8 minutes here, because we've talked about SMID and it's come up several times. You're the chairman. Could you give us the summary? What is SMID? Why do we care about it? What does it do? And I noticed on its website, it mentions the word vision 3, 4, 5, 6 times. What is that vision? Can you just background? Not everyone knows this, so.
Sure. In 1986, the downtown property owners in Cedar Rapids voted and formed the SMID, which is the self-supported municipal improvement district. And it's a additional property tax that the downtown property owners pay. And we do this jointly with the city council and the mayor approve and appoint members to the SMID commission, which is our board, which I've had the honor to lead now for a couple of years. And we do a lot of things in tandem with the city, but just maybe some of the murals, the community spirit mural, the healthcare worker mural. And we're always just a piece of the puzzle. There are always other things, just like the Race for the Space. The SMID is sponsoring the Race for the Space, but it was born out of the Community Development Innovation Council at the Economic Alliance, which is 30 of our brightest who volunteer their time, who came up with this idea with Jesse's help. But we do things like the big belly trash receptacles. We got out of the old ones, we're replacing them with the new big bellies for recycle, the new benches, Christmas lights, lights on the bridge, lights on the buildings. So the Schmidt is a group of people that volunteer their time, either appointed or a downtown property owner, that come together and help run that budget that is funded by that additional tax that we pay, and the city generously gives some additional funds to that group. On the vision, so absolutely, but we're just one small piece with the city and the EA and all the downtown business owners, not just property owners. We want a vibrant, growing downtown. And I'll just say, just real briefly, I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. I was born there. I owned a business there up until a few years ago. Nashville, Tennessee was not Nashville, Tennessee downtown 20 years ago. Okay, they've evolved, they've grown, they've had visionary people like Andy who put their money where their mouth was and opened businesses, and it's grown. It's cool now. Everybody kind of mentions it in the context with San Antonio and maybe a few others. I'm with the mayor. We're next. We're going to be something special, and I'm excited. And it's not going to happen overnight, but hang in there with us. And I think we're gonna be something. People are going to come check out what's happening in Cedar Rapids 10 years from now.
Cool.
Well, as we know, last week, Governor Kim Reynolds signed a 2-year moratorium on new casino developments in Iowa. And Cedar Rapids has tried several times to get a casino here. And, if a casino does ever get built in the future, it would take a couple years and have to go through the state regulatory process. But developers have envisioned a massive Cedar Crossing entertainment complex near downtown at the old Cooper's Mill site. If that vision for casino does ever come to pass, how would that shape economic development prospects in and around the urban core?
And that is a big question. I will point out we've got about 3 minutes left. So you're clever.
Yeah, and I'll start that off just really quickly. I think it's important to continue to reinforce the fact that this casino, I call it an entertainment complex and casino because it's an entertainment complex that happens to have a casino in it, is one piece of the economic development puzzle. And we know, when we've seen the opportunities that have happened in other towns from an economic development standpoint, when a casino, where it goes, what can build up around it. So, I continue to talk about that and believe that should it ever happen, it will have a local, the local investor group that's a part of this, which is important to me. It's a developer that we have vetted and worked well with and understands our values. And it will have local presence inside that facility too. So I think that's very important as a component of where we want to be with our downtown options.
Jesse, thoughts?
Yeah, I echo that, especially the fact that I see the plans and the designs, and it is very much an entertainment complex that has a casino as a component of it. The connectivity from that area will allow the Time Check and the Ellis neighborhoods to just kind of naturally bridge and evolve with downtown. That is especially important. It was disappointing, but at the end of the day, I still think if I was a betting man 10 years from now, at least that thing's going to be done. It's going to be a big win for this community.
Daryl, do you see yourself as a betting man? What do you think?
Only if you say buying real estate is betting, man.
I do.
I would just not count out this community. Whether it's the farm crisis, the flood, the derecho, the casino is just one more box we'll check. We will get it done. Might not be right away. Obviously, there's lots of, I think, people that maybe don't want us to have it, but I think we'll get it done.
Andy, you've got businesses downtown. The entertainment complex help you with the casino? Is that a good thing for you?
I think it does. I think that any and everything that's going to draw more people down here is going to help. I think one of the mild concerns about just kind of downtown talk in general is sometimes it feels like if that complex is drawing people to that complex, is it drawing them to explore the rest of the area? Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of like the idea to with just like having so much stuff centralized in one spot, like with that other thing they're doing with I don't know, right across the river that they just approved. What is that thing with all the brewery in it and all that jazz?
First and first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I think that like I don't want to like say that's not good because I think it's great, but I also think that like to consider too, like does that draw people then to that spot and then they park there and they enjoy that spot and they leave, or does that draw people to that spot and then they say, hey, now we're going to go explore around downtown and see what else is going on? So like that's a question I don't have the answer to, but that's definitely a thought that goes through my head.
Yeah, and I know that's been the discussion to connect Newbo, Czech Village, downtown, Kingston, casino, entertainment complex, First by First is all one big destination.
Right.
And we are at time, we came up with a lot of things that we still could be talking about. But remember, this discussion has been recorded. It will be available to watch later today on this very Gazette site.
And right after this will be the next installment of our 2022 Gazette Spotlight On series of recorded video interviews with leaders of local businesses and organizations. Today's category is on community commitment, and the series is sponsored by True North.
So I want to again thank our panelists today, Daryl Hyde, Jesse Thomig, Mare O'Donnell, Andy Schumacher. I know you're busy people. Thanks for being with us. I want to thank Jake Wagner and Bergen KDV. Thanks to Danielle Tribble, our room host, for shuttling those questions to us. Thanks to Marissa Payne for taking time out of her day to help pitch in here today. And thanks to you who tuned in. More to come, and happy trails. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.